Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real. Life isn't just about clocking in, paying bills, and waiting for the weekend. Nah, that ain't living, that's surviving. And you were put here for so much more than that. Deep down, you know it too. You felt that tug in your gut, that little voice saying there's more for you out there, but maybe you've been too busy, too scared, or too conditioned to stay in your comfort zone to listen. Well, today we're going to shut all that noise down because I'm here to tell you that your true calling is waiting for you, and it's time you answered the phone. You can't keep putting it on hold. And if you're thinking, Steve, I don't even know what my calling is, don't worry. We're going to unpack that right here and right now. By the end of this, you won't just be inspired. You'll be ready to step up, show out, and live a life that finally feels like it's yours. Life is filled with constant noise. Social media feeds telling you what success looks like, friends and family giving well-meaning advice, and even your own thoughts trying to convince you to take the safe, predictable route. In the middle of all that noise, there's a voice inside you. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It taps you on the shoulder, nudging you towards something that makes your heart race and your spirit come alive. But here's the thing, most people never listen. They dismiss that voice as foolish or impractical because they're too busy chasing someone else's definition of success. The first step to embracing your true calling is to get quiet and pay attention. It's not about some magical moment where the clouds part and a billboard spells out your destiny. No, it's about noticing those small, powerful moments when you feel most alive. Maybe it's when you're mentoring someone, creating something with your hands, or solving complex problems. Whatever it is, your true calling is often hiding in the activities and passions you naturally gravitate toward. But you've got to tune in to those moments, or they'll slip right past you. Most people don't realize that ignoring that inner voice comes at a cost. When you choose to follow a path just because it looks good on paper or because it pleases other people, you're setting yourself up for a life of dissatisfaction. And let me tell you, there's nothing more heartbreaking than waking up one day, looking in the mirror, and realizing you spent years living a life that wasn't even yours. That's a heavy burden to carry, but it's one you can avoid by listening to that voice early on and acting on it. Now, I get it. Sometimes the voice telling you to pursue your true calling feels impractical. Maybe you're thinking, but I've got bills to pay, responsibilities to handle, and a job I can't just walk away from. And you're right. This isn't about being reckless. It's about making intentional steps toward the life you're meant to live. Start small if you have to. Carve out time on weekends or evenings to explore your passions. Get curious about what lights you up and energizes you. Take courses, volunteer, or even just spend time dreaming again. That small investment in listening to your inner voice can lead to life-changing results. Let me share something that might shift your mindset. The most successful people you admire, they didn't get there by playing it safe or by silencing that inner calling. They leaned into it, even when it didn't make sense. Oprah didn't ignore her gift of storytelling. Elon Musk didn't brush off his wild ideas about space exploration. And you shouldn't ignore whatever it is that keeps tugging at your soul. The people who achieve greatness aren't the ones who have it all figured out. They're the ones who take a leap of faith because they trust that inner voice. You might be thinking, what if I fail? And my response is simple, so what? Failure isn't the end, it's a step forward. It teaches you what works and what doesn't. But you can only learn those lessons when you start listening and acting. Your true calling doesn't come with a roadmap or a guarantee, but it does come with the promise of fulfillment, purpose, and a life that actually belongs to you. Trust me, that's a deal worth taking. So today, I challenge you, get quiet, tune in, and take the first step toward rewriting your story. One of the biggest misconceptions about living a fulfilling life is that you need to have everything perfectly figured out before you take a step. People believe that clarity comes first and then confidence follows. But let me tell you something, that's not how it works. Confidence is built in motion, not in sitting around waiting for a grand plan to magically appear. The truth is, if you're waiting to feel ready, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Think about it like this. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a pool. The water looks cold, and you keep telling yourself you'll jump in when it feels warmer or when you're more prepared. But the only way to know what it's like is to dive in. That initial shock might be uncomfortable, but before you know it, you're swimming. Life is the same way. Waiting for everything to be perfect before you pursue your true calling will leave you standing on the edge forever. You don't need a perfect blueprint to start moving toward the life you're meant to live. What you need is the courage to take one small step and trust that clarity will come as you move forward. People often get stuck because they think they need to see the entire path laid out in front of them. But in reality, each step you take reveals the next one. It's like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights illuminate, but that's enough to keep moving forward. Let me give you a real-world example. Think about some of the most successful people you admire. Do you think they had it all figured out before they started? Absolutely not. They took risks, made mistakes, and learned as they went. The key difference is that they didn't let uncertainty paralyze them. They had the courage to move forward even when the outcome wasn't guaranteed. I'm not saying it's easy. Taking that first step can be terrifying. But here's the beautiful thing. Every small win builds your confidence. Maybe your first step is signing up for a class, reaching out to a mentor, or finally starting that project you've been talking about for years. Whatever it is, once you take that step, you'll realize that the fear wasn't as big as you made it out to be in your mind. And with each step, your belief in yourself grows stronger. The world rewards action, not perfection. People respect those who are willing to take risks and chase their dreams, even when the path isn't clear. But here's the thing. You don't need anyone else's permission to start. The only permission you need is your own. When you stop waiting for certainty and start embracing the unknown, you unlock a level of confidence you didn't even know was possible. Remember this. Confidence doesn't show up at your door one day with a gift wrap and a bow. It's earned through action. And every single person who ever achieved greatness started by taking one imperfect step forward. So don't wait for clarity to find you. Go out and create it by moving forward today. Your future self will thank you. Fear has a way of standing between us and the lives we're meant to live. It whispers in your ear, telling you all the reasons why you're not good enough, why you're going to fail, and why it's safer to stay right where you are. But here's the truth. Fear's a liar. And if you let it control you, it will rob you of every opportunity to grow, succeed, and live your true calling. Now, let me be real with you. Fear isn't something you can magically erase. It's always going to show up, especially when you're about to do something that matters. But here's the thing. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling that fear and taking the step anyway. Fear is like a signal that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. And that's exactly where growth happens. The question isn't how to eliminate fear, but how to walk with it. Think about it like this. Imagine a wild horse. It's powerful, untamed, and unpredictable, much like fear. But just because that horse is wild doesn't mean you can't ride it. You have to learn to hold the reins and guide it in the direction you want to go. The same goes for fear. When you learn to face it head on and channel it, it can become a source of motivation instead of something that holds you back. Some of you may be thinking, that sounds good, but how do I actually do that? The first step is to change how you interpret fear. Instead of seeing it as a stop sign, start seeing it as a green light, a signal that you're on the edge of a breakthrough. Fear shows up because your brain is trying to protect you from the unknown. But the unknown is exactly where your dreams live. I remember hearing a story about a woman who wanted to start her own business, but was paralyzed by fear. She kept telling herself she wasn't ready, that she didn't know enough, and that people would laugh at her if she failed. But one day, she realized that the fear wasn't going anywhere, so she decided to act despite it. And you know what happened? She stumbled at first, she made mistakes, but she learned, grew, and eventually built a successful business that changed her life. None of that would have happened if she had waited for the fear to disappear. The second thing to remember is that action dissolves fear. The more you do something, the less intimidating it becomes. Think about learning to drive. The first time you got behind the wheel, you were probably nervous, sweating, and scared of making a mistake. But after driving a few times, it became second nature. The same principle applies to anything in life. The more you face your fears, the smaller they become. So don't wait until you feel fearless to pursue your calling, because that day may never come. Fear is always going to be a part of the journey, but it doesn't have to control the narrative. The boldest and most successful people aren't fearless, they're courageous. They feel the fear, acknowledge it, and keep moving forward anyway. And that's exactly what you need to do to rewrite your story and step into your true calling. One of the greatest tragedies in life is when people allow other voices to dictate their decisions and shape their futures. Whether it's family, friends, co-workers, or society at large, the opinions of others can become chains that hold you back from pursuing your true calling. And it's so subtle that you might not even realize it's happening. But I'm here to tell you, your life is too precious to be lived on someone else's terms. And here's the deal. Most people are projecting their own fears, insecurities, and limited thinking onto you. When they say, that's too risky, or are you sure you can do that? They're not really talking about you. They're talking about themselves. They're telling you about their own fears, their own missed opportunities, and their own belief systems. But guess what? That has nothing to do with your journey. Let me share a real-life scenario with you. A young man had a passion for art. He was incredibly talented, but his parents wanted him to pursue a safe career in law or medicine. They kept telling him that being an artist was too uncertain, too unstable, and that he wouldn't be able to make a good living. For years, he suppressed his passion and tried to fit into the mold his family wanted for him. But deep down, he was miserable. Eventually, he couldn't take it anymore. He decided to follow his heart and started showcasing his art online. It wasn't an overnight success, but over time he built a loyal following and turned his passion into a thriving career. The moment he stopped living for other people's expectations, his life changed completely. You might be in a similar situation right now, torn between what you truly want and what other people think you should do. But here's what you need to remember. When you live your life according to someone else's script, you're robbing yourself of the joy, fulfillment, and purpose that comes with living authentically. No one else has to wake up in your shoes every day. Only you do. So why should they get to decide how you live? Breaking free from other people's opinions takes courage. It's not easy, especially when those voices come from people you love and respect. But love doesn't mean you have to follow their roadmap. Love can coexist with independence. You can honor their concern while still forging your own path. And when you do, you not only set yourself free, but one practical way to start is by getting clear on your own voice. Spend time in reflection, journaling, or prayer, whatever helps you connect with your inner self. Ask yourself, what do I really want? What lights me up? What would I do even if no one supported me? Once you have those answers, hold on to them tightly. Because when you know who you are and where you're going, the opinions of others lose their power. The truth is, people will always have something to say, but their words only matter if you let them. When you stop seeking approval and start seeking purpose, you unlock a strength and clarity you didn't even know you had. So today, make the decision to take back the pen and write your own story, one that belongs to you and no one else. Taking the first step toward embracing your true calling is often the hardest part. Fear of the unknown, self-doubt, and the temptation to cling to what's comfortable can paralyze you before you even begin. But here's the truth. Greatness never lives in your comfort zone. If you want to fulfill your purpose and live the life you were meant to live, you've got to step into the unknown with faith, courage, and determination. Think about it. When you stay in your comfort zone, you're essentially living on autopilot. You're doing what's familiar, what's predictable, and what's safe. But here's the problem. Growth doesn't happen there. You can't reach your full potential by playing it safe. Every successful person you've ever admired had to take that first scary step into the unknown. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't have a guarantee of success, but they moved forward anyway because they believed in the vision that was placed inside them. Let me share a story with you. There's a woman I know who had been working a corporate job for over a decade. She was good at what she did, but she felt unfulfilled. She had always dreamed of starting her own business, but the thought of leaving a stable paycheck terrified her. Every time she thought about taking the leap, fear would creep in. What if it didn't work out? What if she failed? What if she couldn't pay her bills? Those questions kept her paralyzed for years. One day, she finally reached a breaking point. She realized that staying in her comfort zone was costing her something far greater than financial security. It was costing her peace of mind and happiness. So she made the bold decision to leave her job and pursue her passion full time. Was it easy? Absolutely not. She faced countless challenges, but she kept pushing forward. And now she's running a successful business that not only provides for her family, but also brings her joy and fulfillment. The key takeaway from her story is this. You don't have to be fearless to take the first step. You just have to be brave enough to do it despite the fear. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward in the face of it. When you take that initial leap, you build momentum. And with every step you take, your confidence grows, and the fear that once seemed so overwhelming begins to fade. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what if I fail? Here's the thing. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. Every setback is a lesson. Every obstacle is an opportunity to grow. And every misstep brings you one step closer to your goal. The only real failure is staying stuck where you are because you're too afraid to try. So, whatever that first step looks like for you, whether it's starting that side hustle, going back to school, or having that tough conversation. Take it. Don't wait until you have all the answers, because you never will. The perfect moment doesn't exist. The only moment you have is now. Remember, you were not created to live a life of mediocrity. There's greatness inside you waiting to be unleashed. But it can only come to life if you're willing to step outside your comfort zone. So take that first step and watch how your world begins to change. Sometimes we get so caught up in the expectations that others place on us that we forget to listen to our own inner voice. The world has a way of telling you who you should be, how you should live, and what success looks like. But here's the truth. No one else is living your life but you. You were uniquely crafted with gifts, talents, and a purpose that only you can fulfill. If you want to truly embrace your calling, you've got to drown out the noise and trust your inner voice. Listening to that voice requires courage because it often challenges the status quo. It may tell you to leave a high-paying job to pursue a passion that doesn't make sense to anyone else. It may urge you to take a stand for something you believe in, even if it's unpopular. It may push you to go after a dream that seems crazy on paper. But here's the thing, that voice knows your truth. It knows your potential even when the world doesn't see it yet. There's a powerful story about a man who was constantly told he'd never amount to anything. His teachers said he was too distracted. His friends laughed at his dreams. Even his family didn't fully believe in him. But there was one thing that kept him going, his inner voice. It whispered to him in the quiet moments, keep going. You're made for something great. And he listened to that voice even when it seemed like the whole world was against him. Fast forward years later, that same man became a groundbreaking entrepreneur, inspiring millions with his journey. When people asked him how he did it, his answer was simple. I stopped listening to the people who doubted me and started listening to the voice that believed in me. That's the power of trusting your inner guidance. Now, I know it can be challenging to hear that voice when the world is so loud. Social media is constantly feeding you images of what success is supposed to look like. Family and friends with the best intentions may try to steer you in a direction that's safe and predictable. But here's a little secret. What's right for someone else may not be right for you. Your path is yours alone. The key to hearing that inner voice is to create moments of stillness. Get away from the distractions. Spend time reflecting, praying, or simply sitting in silence. When you do, you'll find that the answers you've been searching for have been inside you all along. And once you hear that voice, follow it with everything you've got. It won't lead you astray. There will be moments when doubt creeps in. You'll question whether you're making the right decision. That's normal. But when those moments come, remind yourself why you started. Remember the conviction that led you to take that first step. Hold on to it like a lifeline because it will guide you through the storms. Most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes along the way. Your inner voice isn't about perfection. It's about authenticity. It's about living a life that's true to who you are, not who the world says you should be. When you trust that voice, you step into a life filled with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. And isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? A life that's worth living on our own terms?